Welcome to the Divorce Angel podcast, and thank you for joining us. Get ready to uncover the strategies everyone can implement for successful separation and divorce. This will save you valuable time, money, and emotions while learning the secrets to your happily ever after. And now your host, my wife, Tanya Summerton.
Hello and welcome back. This is the Divorce Angel podcast, and I'm your host, Tanya Summerton. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm obsessed with helping clients chart a course through the complex process of divorce and starting a new life. You know how stressful and confusing it can be when you are extremely emotional and you need to make life-changing decisions, and every decision has a consequence. Well, I run a boutique business both online and in person, helping clients simplify the process with a step-by-step plan and my army of angels to help navigate the issues, saving money, time, and emotions. So in this week's podcast, we're going to talk about the 10 little-known secrets to do divorce better. So for the past 3 years, I've been spending my time and money watching, learning, and instructing my clients on how to do divorce better. The problems I witness seem to reoccur over and over again. Maybe not to the same extent, but certainly because people are ill-informed of the consequences and allow things to get completely out of hand or to escalate. This problem simply does not discriminate. It doesn't matter whether you're wealthy or you're not. The problem can happen to both male and female. If you want to succeed at your divorce, then you really, truly need a plan. I am such a believer in having a plan. Do you have an outcome that you want to achieve? Or like many others, are you just walking around in the darkness hoping to find the light? This is such an epidemic that people just turn up to a lawyer or to whoever and they have no idea what it is that they want to achieve. And when you walk into someone's office and you allow them to take the reins, you will end up going in the direction that they want, not the direction that you want. So I teach these tools in my divorce roadmap strategies, and because they are so critical to our clients' outcome, I've now put a course together, so the divorce roadmap course. And it's so that people, no matter where they are, can learn about what they need to think about, how they need to mitigate risks, and what are really, truly important to them in the divorce outcome, so they're not wasting their time and money, and they can simplify the whole process. So this is really, really important stuff. So make sure if you are going through a divorce that either you get on and have a look at my divorce roadmap course, or consider the things I've said. Really understand before you walk into the office of a lawyer what it is that you want to achieve. So before we get into this topic, I thought it was really important to talk about failure and what failure means. Because a lot of these secrets that I'm going to tell you about in helping you do divorce better come from the mistakes that other people make. So if I can teach you the failures or what they're doing incorrectly or wrong, or what they could be doing better, then that will prevent you from making those same mistakes. So when I speak to someone and I ask them about their financial costs and how much they want to spend, or what sort of outlook on life do they have, and what does it look like? Do they honestly understand what it takes to succeed? Most of them just have no idea. And I thought that was why it was so important to have this information in your hand. So I really want this episode to be a lesson for those who are currently heading in the direction of separation, or even if you're in the middle of a divorce. I want you to learn from the mistakes of others and to try and really prevent your own. So if I can help you reevaluate your decisions and help you learn from other people's mistakes, then maybe you won't finish this whole divorce process being bitter and angry, and instead live a life that you really will be happy with. So because whether you like it or not, fighting over separation and divorce is so exhausting, and it's in all areas of your life at a time when it seems like the right thing to do, but you've made mistakes because you've made the decisions on emotion, not on the end goal or where it is that you actually want to get to. So what if we look at the definition of fail? So Google says to be unsuccessful in achieving one's goals. And herein lies the problem. I would say from my time working with separated people, couples, my own experience, my friends, work colleagues, the lawyers, financial advisors and the accountants who look after the people going through their separation, 99.9% of people do not have a plan or a goal. It's just as simple as that. And that is why ultimately they do not succeed, because they have no idea what it is that they are trying to be successful at. Why do most people fail when getting a divorce? Let's get started. A lot of people at certain times throughout the process can be vindictive, and they do at some time or another want to see their partner in pain and suffer. I'm lucky enough that I can pick and choose my clients, so I don't work with too many people like this, but you do see moments throughout the whole process where there's no doubt that people get a little bit like this, and certain stages it's understandable because partners can sometimes be really nasty and you've got to react to that. But the major issue with thinking in this way so that you can sort of try and hurt them is that it helps no one. And if anything, all your energy goes into anger rather than trying to have a better life. Now, the reason for people acting this way can vary, and let's be honest, as I said, I'm not a therapist or even pretend to be one, but operating in this mindset is also a cry for help. So people who are hurting act out of vengeance. These individuals make decisions sometimes to just prolong the pain for their partner and have really no intentions of getting things finalised. So it's okay to move in and out of these sort of feelings, but when you're stuck in them all the time, that's not healthy and that's not good. So, the opposite can also be true when people underestimate how nasty and angry their partner can be. And, they just are not reasonable when it comes to any form of negotiation. And if you're dealing with someone like that, you're really, really going to struggle to come to any sort of agreement. So that's tiring and frustrating. So then the next one is they think about now and not later. And this is where a plan is critical. If you do not have a plan, you are only just thinking of today. Try and actually illustrate this point. When we talk to a client, we try and have facts and figures and what's going on in the market to try and help with everyone's decision making. So it's not just made because it's how you feel. It's made because we sit there and we look at what the budget looks like. We look at how much the house is worth, how much the mortgage is worth, what your future goals are, how old your children are. There's a whole lot of things that sort of come into play. So recently I had a client who, even with this evidence in front of her, she decided to make the contrary decision. So whilst it went against everything that the evidence said, she just felt like, no, I want to keep my house. So here in Australia, we currently have a declining property market, which adds to the frustration for a lot of people here. But this client wanted to be able to say to her friends and her family that she got the house no matter what. That was her driver. You could just see it. So the house was in need of quite a bit of work. And it was obvious that in the coming years, further work would be required because it was deteriorating. Now, she didn't have the ability to fix the issues that were happening right now. So I don't know how she was going to have the ability in the future to be able to fix it either. But the property was priced at the top of the market by a valuer. And we had quite a few real estate agents go through the property who said that it was simply overpriced and the market would not get, if she had to put it on the market and try and sell it, she just would not get the price that the valuer had valued it at. So with all of this information and also the ages of her children, it was a silly decision, and it was a costly decision. But the house was also large, so therefore the amenities to run the house were expensive, and the client was only working part-time. So the majority of her wage, 75% of it, was probably going to go to just the mortgage, the upkeep, and paying the amenities and all the rest of it. And it really didn't leave her any money, time, or satisfaction in living a life that could be improved. So she's going to sit in this house that was the family home. She's going to feel all of the emotions that she's always felt. She's going to look around and see how it was when they were as a family, as well as all of that sort of, let's say, negative emotion. She's also going to have to deal with all of the consequences financially that are going to occur in the future. And if she was to put the property back on the market, firstly, the price isn't going to be the same that she's paid her ex-husband for. Secondly, we're in a declining market, so if she has to sell it in the next few years, she could get less than what she's paid for it. Her mortgage is taking up the majority of her pay, and if her children leave home, which is very likely, she's going to be living in this house all by herself. So she's thinking about now and not thinking of the future. And when you make decisions like that, unfortunately, they will come back and probably bite you. And it's not something that we like to see, but we hand that evidence over to our clients, and it's up to them to make, the decisions at the end of the day. But it's certainly something that I don't like to see happening. But some people will just go against the evidence and do what they want to do anyway. And that's why I have to be honest, in her divorce roadmap when we did it, her goal was always to keep her house. But when we started, and then by the time we finished it, everything, the economy had changed, the housing market had changed. What she thought she was going to get out of her separation with her husband didn't happen because of some other reasons, with some other assets that declined in value at the time. As well as having a plan, you need to make sure that you've got a plan B as well. The next one is they are unprepared for all the paperwork and the information required by their lawyer. Some clients just think that the lawyer is a superhero and able to make anything happen. So just because you're paying a lawyer does not mean that your work is over and done. A lawyer is simply a tool, and that tool is to help you finalize your past and help you set up your future. As the client, you must support by providing whatever evidence and means, and that means probably, bank statements or titles, whatever the case may be that your lawyer requests, to be able to support the evidence that they are putting up as being factual and truthful. So if you're not prepared to provide supporting documentation in a timely manner, then this can cost you money because it just prolongs everything. And secondly, your lawyer's probably going to be following you up, asking, where's this paperwork? Why haven't you got it to me? And it just adds to the expense. So number 4, clients expect their lawyers to make miracles happen when the law says that they're not entitled to it. Some people expect an outcome because. That's right, I hear people say, but I deserve it. That's not fair. I should be entitled to it. I did this or I did that. And unfortunately, the courts may not consider the reasons as one which can be legally supported. I know it can be frustrating. Expecting your lawyer to be able to make something happen that they just can't is it's unproductive, and unfortunately it's where you'll come falling down, because you're going to spend so much time emotionally worrying about why you can't get what you think you deserve, when overall the courts don't see it the same way you do. Okay, and now we're up to number 5, and that's picking the wrong lawyer. So walking into a lawyer's office without fully understanding if they are the right person for the job can be costly, And not only can it cost you in a financial sense, but it can also cost you in as far as a reasonable outcome on other assets that you think are really important. I'm very critical of a lot of lawyers, unfortunately. There's a lot of very, very good lawyers out there as well. And I encourage my clients to make sure that they try and interview 3 before they actually choose the right one. Now, even if you've got a referral from a friend or a family member or colleague, I still recommend that you go and see that person. You could always go back to them, but make sure that you go and interview 2 other people. Lawyers aren't always critical to certain couples' separation or divorces. So not everyone actually needs a lawyer. So if you need a lawyer to have a formal arrangement that is upheld by the law, then you will need to hire a lawyer. For instance, say a transfer of home ownership or business ownership, or writing up a partnership agreement if you're going to stay in business together, going through and working out family assets and liabilities. All of those things do require the assistance of a lawyer because you need to get a legal document drawn up. But if you don't need to deal with all of those things, you should probably revisit the need for a lawyer. And is there another way to get what you need finalised? If you were going to hire a lawyer, go to my homepage at www.tanyasummerton.com, and at the bottom there's a free book on how to choose the right lawyer. If you download that, that's actually got some questions and some things that you should consider when you're looking at hiring someone to be on your team. So the key to picking the right lawyer is finding a person who you feel understands your needs. Finding a lawyer who practices in family law and not across all different areas of law. So in other words, they're a specialist, not a generalist. Lawyers are business owners, and like other successful business, they need to be profitable and not have massive overheads. So just because you think you need the best does not always mean that it needs to be the most expensive. It's more around the sort of the profit that the business makes. So there's so much to weigh up when considering a lawyer. I really want you to take a lot of that on board and consider, because that person in your team is critical to your outcome. Then we've got number 6, and this is when they have no understanding of what they want to achieve from their divorce. So we sort of touched on this a little bit already, but most people, when asking what they want from their divorce, will normally say to me, I want to be free. I want to be free from pain, free from the fight, the animosity, and I want to be free to make my own decisions. Freedom is great and we all deserve it, but you don't want it to cost everything that you've worked for to date. In other words, walking away from a fair outcome or your divorce costing more than necessary, both financially and emotionally, because you've been too busy dealing with everything else and did not take the time to prioritise what you really wanted. And in that case, freedom can be costly. But the thing I want to get across to you is that at the end of the day, if you have a really, once again, solid plan, you can live this amazing life and your freedom can be anything you want it to be. But you need to make sure that you just don't go off in a daze and worry about everything else that's going on around you, and you stick to the case in point and make sure that the divorce proceedings are what you actually want to achieve. So you've got to spend some time really thinking about what it is you want out of life and what you need to take out of your previous relationship to succeed in your next. So hopefully that makes sense. Number 7, they have no understanding of the legal process and the stages required to finalise their relationship. And this one sometimes makes me laugh because most people I speak to think that they just have to wait 12 months and then get divorced. Others think that everyone has to go to court to sort out their financial circumstances, and the majority think that a lawyer is the only way forward. That the partner that stays at home keeps a house as long as they make the mortgage repayments, and the list just goes on. But the reason that it makes me laugh is most of this stuff comes from TV shows that we watch. When I ask them, where did you hear that? They'll recite some sort of Law and Order or some show that they've watched, and it doesn't work like that. So around the world, we've all got different laws, different provinces, different states. Every jurisdiction has a different way to work with your specific case. So you need to make sure that the information that you have at hand is correct and that you're not just guessing. Because if you don't understand the legal process, it could actually harm you in the long run. And it's really important to take control of your life and understand the legal ramifications to every decision and what you are doing. And then we have number 8. They delay and are full of inaction because it's easier to do nothing than to take steps to address the unhappiness. So unfortunately, there are some people who prefer to ignore their situation. So the reasons can vary, and in many cases they are justified, but they can range from they can't be bothered because they have nothing to lose. So because they've got nothing to lose, why even put any steps in place to finalise their relationship? Then they have never had to deal with the financial matters throughout their relationship, so they have no idea even where to start. And that's where a business like mine comes in, because they're the sorts of clients that we would, really love helping. Or they're paralysed by inaction and making the wrong decision. So they're too scared to do anything because they don't want to get into any further hurt than they're already in now. But no matter what the reasons, there are associated risks by not doing anything. What comes to mind is a related case that we had recently where we had a lovely client and her husband, and they were really amicable. They were actually quite good friends. And they'd been separated for 4 years, but had continued to co-parent together. They lived in separate houses. And unfortunately for our client, her ex-husband had some mental health problems that she probably wasn't aware of. And he became addicted to a substance, and he took his eye off his business. So cash flow became a real problem for him, and unfortunately the bank foreclosed, and she wasn't aware of it. So in hindsight, because she's such a wonderful person, she didn't want to rock the boat. She, wanted to be nice to him, and she was still surviving, and he was helping with the cost of the kids, but he wasn't actually looking after his own, let's say, backyard. So the house that got foreclosed on was the family home that they had for quite a while, and they had quite a bit of equity in it. She actually lost around $400,000 by delaying finalising her relationship. The husband ended up going bankrupt, and she ended up losing. And it's important to understand your situation and the consequences. If you decide to then still do nothing, but you're aware of what might happen and you've weighed it all up, that's fair enough. But make sure you are fully aware of your inaction, and by not doing something, what that might do to your financial circumstances later on, and weigh up the risks. Then number 9, they don't get back information to their professionals in time. So if someone in your team is asking for something, you need to get it back to them as quickly as possible. What you've got to remember is you're paying these people. So you want to get the information back to them as quickly as you can so they can give you advice so that you can move forward in your life. Every time you prolong getting something to them, you're actually stalling your own experience, advice, case, and the only person you're hurting is yourself. So if someone asks you for something, get it back to them in a timely manner. And then the last one is taking your eyes off the big picture. So recently I was talking to one of the financial advisors that I work with, and he was telling me about a mate of his who has been going through a separation and a divorce with his wife. He owns a business himself, and what's happened is he's been so bitter, just like I suppose a bit like number 1 when we talked about being vindictive and that sort of thing. He's been so bitter about everything that's been going on in his life. He's sort of taken his eye off his business, and what's happened to this poor fella is staff have started to leave. He's lost clients. and everything is just snowballing. So not only is his personal life a mess, now his business life is really starting to suffer. When you take your eyes off the big picture, which to be honest is at certain times it is natural, because when you're going through this emotionally, you do feel like, everything is just coming down on top of you. But this is when you really need to get some professional help, either from a life coach or from a therapist or a counselor or a psychologist. But you need to work through your feelings, because what this poor fella has ended up losing is not only his wife and his children, but it looks like he's gone from having 10 staff down to 2 staff. He's lost some really good long-term clients that have been with him for quite a long period. The ramifications for him have been massive. I hate hearing stories like that, because it's just not worth it. From what I understand, the reason that this has all happened is because he just hasn't wanted to let her go. He's done everything possible to try and prolong the divorce experience for her, and it's actually come at his own detriment. So in conclusion, let's just go back over them again. We had number 1, so people can be vindictive and want to see their partner in pain or suffer. Then we had number 2, they think about the now and not the later. So like I explained to you about my client who's not thinking about the big picture. Number 3, they are unprepared for all the paperwork and information required for their lawyer, don't understand how much they need to supply to the lawyer to help themselves. Number 4, they expect their lawyer to make miracles happen even when the law says that they're not entitled to it. So thinking that you are entitled to something when you really aren't, getting upset because you're not getting the outcome that you want. 5, picking the wrong lawyer. So something that I talk about quite a lot, making sure that you pick the right person for your team. 6, they have no understanding of what they want to achieve from their divorce. So once again, something I talk about quite often, making sure you have a solid plan. And that's what our divorce roadmap is all about, understanding what it is you want to achieve and then how you go about getting that. Number 7, understanding of the legal process and the stages required to finalise your relationship. So wherever you live, understanding what you really need to put in place to get everything finished and finalised. 8, delay and are full of inaction because it's easier to ignore it and do nothing than to take steps to address their unhappiness. Making sure, like my poor client that thought she was doing the right thing by leaving everything with her husband, and unfortunately they ended up he went into bankruptcy and she lost close to $500,000 that would really have set her up quite well for the rest of her life. Number 9, they don't get information back to their professionals straight away. So that could be anyone. So I'm not actually talking about a lawyer. If you're talking about the settlement of a property or selling of businesses or tax implications or whatever the case may be, an accountant might be waiting for you to get something to them that the lawyer is asking for. So it's important, it doesn't matter who it is, to make sure you get the information back on time. And then taking your eyes off the big picture. My friend, the financial advisor, and his colleague who looks like now, not only lost quite a lot of his business revenue and his really long-term staff, but his life really is a bit of a mess now. And I don't want anyone to go through any of these things. So hopefully you've learnt from some of the big mistakes that I see people make quite regularly. And these are the 10 little-known secrets when you want to do divorce better. If you can remember all of those, put some steps in place to make sure that they don't happen to you, then hopefully you'll have a really, really good outcome. So don't forget to get the free opt-in like I spoke about on my website on how to pick the right lawyer. And thanks for listening. I'd really like you to subscribe and leave a comment if you can. Each of these episodes is so time consuming, but I love doing them. And I want to make sure that I provide content that is relevant and helpful to everyone. So if there's anything that you'd like to know or there's something that you'd like me to talk about, please send me an email at admin@tanyasummerton.com or go to my website www.tanyasummerton.com, go to the contact form and leave me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everyone, and I'll talk to you next week.